Today's story is an unsolved case that took place in Japan in 1972. A young woman traveled alone to a remote hot spring inn for a getaway. Yet, she never returned. Afterward, police found 5 photographs in the camera she had with her. These 5 photos are believed to be very likely the key to solving the entire case. Next, I'll take you back to that year and tell this story. Because the victim's real name has never been released to the public, I will refer to her as Miss K. That year, Miss K was 24 years old, born into a family of 5. Her parents were alive, and she also had a 28-year-old older sister and a 23-year-old younger brother. The 3 siblings were close in age, grew up together, and the family was very close-knit. They lived in the southern part of Gunma Prefecture, in a city near Tokyo, Isesaki. Miss K loved traveling, and she especially loved hot springs. For her, the ideal holiday meant leaving the city, staying at a hot spring inn, and relaxing, traveling and soaking in an onsen at the same time. Whenever there was a holiday, she would carefully choose her destination, and a hot spring inn was almost always her first choice.
August 13th is Obon in Japan. It is one of the most important holidays of the year, second only to New Year's. Many people use this time to return home to honor their ancestors, while others choose to travel. Naturally, Miss K didn't want to miss such a rare opportunity. She had originally planned to go on a hot spring trip with her mother and younger brother.
The destination was Mount Kirizumi in Gunma Prefecture. Mount Kirizumi is about 37 miles west of Isesaki City. The terrain is higher and the scenery is quiet and secluded. Even in the peak heat of August, the temperature is only around 77 degrees Fahrenheit, making it an ideal summer retreat in the eyes of locals. There are many hot spring inns scattered throughout the mountains, and the most famous one is called Kirizumi Onsen Kintoken. This inn sits at an elevation of over 3,280 feet and has natural sulfur hot springs. The water temperature stays around 102 degrees Fahrenheit year-round. Even in summer, soaking here doesn't feel stifling. On the contrary, it feels extremely comfortable. After discussing it, Miss K's family ultimately decided to book a guest room at the inn. They planned to arrive at the inn on August 12th and stay for one night. However, no one could have foreseen. This trip would become the final journey of Miss K's life. Next, let's turn back the clock to August 12th, 1972. Originally, the 3 of them were supposed to travel together to Mount Kirizumi on this day. However, very unfortunately, Miss K would be traveling to Mount Kirizumi alone. The reason was that the day before, her younger brother, who worked at a bank, suddenly ran into something at work and couldn't get away. He had no choice but to give up the trip. Miss K's mother then asked their next-door neighbor, a 39-year-old woman referred to as Miss A, to go along instead. Even more unfortunately, right before departure, Miss K's mother also ran into an urgent matter and couldn't go either. Miss K had an introverted personality and wasn't familiar with Miss A, the next-door neighbor. On top of that, there was a 15-year age difference between them, so traveling together would inevitably feel awkward. So Miss K decided to go to Mount Kirizumi alone. Since this was not her first time going to Mount Kirizumi to enjoy the hot springs, her mother agreed to let her go by herself. That day, Miss K wore a navy sleeveless top and a white mini skirt, with a white hat on her head and high heels on her feet, and set out from home. In the 1970s, there was no direct public transportation from Miss K's home to the hot spring inn on Mount Kirizumi, so to get there, she first needed to take the JR train and then transfer to a bus. Miss K's father drove her to the JR station, then gave her 10,000 yen as spending money and told her to be careful on the way. At 10:19 a.m., Miss K boarded the train at JR Isesaki Station, and at noon she got off at Yokokawa Station, where she would transfer to a bus. From the JR Yokokawa Station, where she was now, to the inn, there were still 8 miles to go. She needed to take a bus from here to the inn. However, she waited a long time, and still no bus arrived. At that moment, a staff member from Yokokawa Station drove past Miss K. Seeing that she looked anxious, he asked whether she needed a ride and said he could take her along the way for part of the trip. Miss K explained where she was headed. The staff member then drove her to the Kirizumi Onsen Liaison Station. The Kirizumi Onsen Liaison Station was located at the foot of Mount Kirizumi. It was a place dedicated to providing services such as reservations for the hot spring inns up in the mountains. In that era, communication in the mountains was inconvenient, so reservations could only be made through the liaison station at the base. There were no public buses going up the mountain, only the inn's dedicated shuttle buses. They ran round trips every day along fixed routes to pick up and drop off guests, and the Kirizumi Onsen Liaison Station at the foot of the mountain was one of the pickup points. The JR staff member dropped Miss K off at this liaison station. Miss K then waited there for some time, but still did not see the inn shuttle bus arrive. So Miss K asked a middle-aged woman at the liaison station, "How long would it take to walk from here to the inn up the mountain?" The woman glanced at the high heels on Miss K's feet and said, "It would take about 3 to 4 hours on foot. Wearing high heels, you won't be able to make it up there." Then Miss K bought a pair of white sneakers at a nearby shop. She changed into them and planned to hike up the mountain on foot. When the middle-aged woman at the liaison station saw this, she hurried over to stop her, saying that the mountain area was sparsely populated and it would be dangerous for Miss K to go alone. The woman then said to Miss K, "Wait a little longer. The bus will be here soon." Miss K took the advice and decided to keep waiting. During this time, the two chatted for a while, leaving the woman with a strong impression of Miss K. By 2 p.m., the inn shuttle bus finally arrived at the liaison station. Miss K said goodbye to the middle-aged woman and boarded the bus to the inn. At 3 p.m., Miss K arrived at the inn up in the mountains. After that, Miss K went to soak in the hot spring, ate dinner, and for the rest of the time, she stayed in her room and did not leave. The next morning at 8 a.m., after breakfast, Miss K came to the water wheel outside the entrance of the inn. She thought the water wheel was very beautiful and wanted to take a commemorative photo. At that moment, a staff member happened to pass by, a 21-year-old man who was working part-time at the inn. Miss K took out her camera and asked him to take a photo of her as a keepsake, so the staff member took 2 photos for Miss K. According to the plan, Miss K would stay here for only 1 night, so around 10 a.m., she went to the front desk to check out. She put on the white sneakers she had bought the day before and wanted to hike down the mountain on foot. When the innkeeper saw Miss K leaving alone like that, she stopped her and suggested that she wait and take the bus down the mountain instead. It would be both fast and safe. However, Miss K politely declined the innkeeper's suggestion, saying she wanted to go for a walk. Then she left the inn and walked alone on the road, leading down the mountain. Miss K checked into the inn on August 12th. According to the plan, she would stay at the inn for only 1 night and return home on August 13th. However, even by August 15th, Miss K still had not come home, which deeply worried her family. Because communication technology was not advanced in that era, The family had no way to get in touch with Miss K, so Miss K's older sister went to Mount Kirizumi in person to look for her. After arriving at the inn, the female owner said that Miss K had already left the hot spring inn on the morning of the 13th. She also added that Miss K had not taken the bus down the mountain that day, but had walked down alone. Miss K's older sister searched all the scenic spots on Mount Kirizumi, but did not find any trace of Miss K. So early in the morning on August 16th, Miss K's father reported her missing to the local police and asked for assistance in the search. After receiving the report, the police immediately sent officers to the inn to investigate. After learning the details, they dispatched a search team to look for Miss K on Mount Kirizumi. At the same time, Miss K's father also organized a search party of about 10 people, starting from the inn and searching down the mountain. By 4:30 p.m., they made a discovery. A searcher found a wooden hut by the roadside on the way down the mountain. It seemed suspicious, so he went over to take a closer look. There were many flies swarming in the air around the hut. Beside the hut was a river, and on the river there was a dam. The hut had once been a temporary shelter built by workers during the dam's construction, but after the dam was completed, it was abandoned and left unused. When they entered the hut, they finally found Miss K, who had been missing for days. She was fully clothed, but showed no signs of life, and several pieces of cardboard were covering her body. A forensic examination found that Miss K had been stabbed more than 20 times. The fatal wound was a deep stab to the heart. No signs of sexual assault were found. The estimated time of death was between 2 p.m. and 6 p.m. on August 13th. For this case that occurred on Mount Kirizumi, the Gunma Prefectural Police organized more than 200 officers to investigate. Inside the hut, police found a white hat, a travel guidebook, a wristwatch stopped at 10:09, and a camera. In addition to these, there were various everyday items belonging to Miss K, totaling around 40 items. There was a large amount of blood inside the hut, so police conducted a luminol test and tried to determine the direction the killer had fled. What surprised them was that blood was found only inside the hut, and no blood was discovered outside the hut. Officers suspected that after leaving the hut, the killer might have run along the dam beside it to the other side of the river and then thrown the weapon and other items into the river. To verify this theory, divers searched the river near the hut, but found nothing. The police individually investigated a total of 27 employees from the inn and another nearby hot spring inn, 30 workers engaged in shrub clearing work on Mount Kirizumi, and 5,000 households living on the mountain, and ruled out the possibility that these people had committed the crime. At the time of the incident, about 1.2 miles from the hut where Miss K was found, another dam was under construction, with around 200 workers there. Because August 13th, the day of the incident, was Obon. The workers there were all on holiday and had returned home, and almost all of them had alibis. After further investigation, the police also ruled out each of them as suspects. August 12th and 13th were holidays, and many people came to the hot spring inns. In that era, the requirements for checking in were very lenient. Guests only needed to register their name. Some people liked to use fake names, which made it very difficult for police to locate them based on the names in the registry. Even so, police confirmed that over those 2 days, August 12th and 13th, nearly 260 people stayed at the inn, and another nearby hot spring inn. They also confirmed that more than 300 day-trip visitors came just to use the hot springs, meaning they soaked in the baths and left the same day without staying overnight. The police investigated each of these people one by one. Several witnesses provided leads to the police. They said that at around 1 p.m. on August 13th, the day of the incident, they saw Miss K walking alone near Shinobu no Ike Falls, about 0.5 miles from the inn. It is very strange that she took 3 hours to cover such a short distance of about half a mile. It is possible that Miss K spent time visiting a nearby sightseeing spot and then returned to that area, but what actually happened remains unknown. A family who had traveled to Mount Kirizumi also provided a witness statement. They said that after checking out of the inn, they drove down the mountain, and at around 2 p.m., they saw Miss K walking alone down the road. The place where they saw Miss K was about 0.9 miles from the hut. At the time, they felt it was dangerous for a young woman to be walking down the mountain alone, so they offered to give her a ride, but she refused. This was implied to be the last witness report. After that, no one ever saw her again. The medical examiner estimated Miss K's time of death as between 2 p.m. and 6 p.m., which means she was attacked sometime after that, while she was on her way down the mountain. The police found a camera inside the hut. The film was intact, and they developed 5 photographs from it. The first and second photos were taken by the inn staff member beside the water wheel at the entrance of the inn. So what were the remaining photos? That year, a Japanese newspaper published one of the photos. It was a full-body shot of Miss K taken beside a waterfall. On the way down the mountain from the inn, you would pass 2 waterfalls, Shinobu no Ike Falls and Kindo Falls. The 2 waterfalls look very different, and based on the background in the photo, it can be identified as Shinobu no Ike Falls. Witnesses also saw her near Shinobu no Ike Falls that day. On the night the newspaper published the third photo, a 22-year-old man named Ishida contacted the paper. Ishida said that the photo in the newspaper was taken by him. He said that on the 13th, he and a few friends went fishing at Shinobu no Ike Falls, and that was where they met Miss K. Miss K asked him to take a few photos for her, so Ishida took 2 photos in a row in front of the waterfall. The newspaper passed this information to the police, but Ishida suddenly disappeared. The police investigated using the name he provided and discovered that the personal information he had given was false. On August 20th, the newspaper published the 4th photo from the camera. This photo looked the same as the 3rd one, but in fact, there were some subtle differences. That matched Ishida's claim that he had taken 2 photos consecutively. Unfortunately, Ishida had provided a fake name, and no matter what the police did, they could not find him. The most crucial image in the camera was the 5th photo. The police never released this photo, which only added another layer of mystery to the case. Everyone was left guessing what the 5th photo showed. Some people who claimed to have seen it said the last photo was taken at Kindo Falls and was also a full-body shot. However, this claim was never confirmed by the police. At one point, a version of the 5th photo circulated online. Many people mistakenly believed it was the real photo, but it was not. It was a reference image made by an internet user. The background in that image was not Kindo Falls, but a forest somewhere. Based on the different versions circulating online, one point of agreement emerged. The 5th photo was a full-body shot. As for whether anyone else appeared in the photo or where exactly it was taken, the police have never made it public. The 3rd and 4th photos were taken at Shinobu no Ike Falls, and the police confirmed the time they were taken as around 1:30 p.m. This also aligns with witness statements that Miss K was seen near Shinobu no Ike Falls at around 1 p.m. The location of the last sighting of Miss K would have required passing by Kindu Falls. No matter where Miss K took the fifth photo, the person who took it is the key to solving the case. The location where the fifth photo was taken is unknown, and online users have speculated that it was taken at Kindu Falls. However, after the incident, the person who took the photo never came forward. Based on the limited clues they had, the police inferred that the killer might have been someone who drove to Mount Kirizumi to fish, to hike, or a local person with a criminal record. Mount Kirizumi is a great place for summer fishing, and there is a river here called the Kirizumi River. At the time, it was also the Obon holiday. So many anglers came to Mount Kirizumi to fish. Beside the hut where Miss K was found was a dam, which attracted many people to drive there for fishing. The police inferred that the murder weapon resembled the kind of knife used to prepare sashimi from raw fish. The police found some footprints inside the wooden hut beside the dam. These were believed to have been left by the workers from the past, but some anglers also wore similar rubber-soled footwear. The police investigated along the anglers' lead. They discovered that during the afternoon hours on the 13th, more than 30 cars had been parked near the hut. Most of those vehicles belonged to people who had come to fish in the Kirizumi River. After eliminating possibilities, the police ultimately identified 7 vehicles as the most suspicious, but nothing suspicious was found regarding those 7 cars in the end. On Mount Kirizumi, there were not only hot spring guests and anglers, but also many hikers. The police conducted extensive investigations into this as well. However, in that era, there were no surveillance cameras in the mountains, and the number of visitors was large, so the police were unable to thoroughly investigate every person who had ever appeared near the hut. The police then identified 5 local people with prior criminal records, but none of the 5 were in the relevant area during the time of the incident. After that, the police continued investigating for many years. In 1974 alone, the police deployed more than 8,000 personnel in total, screened over 6,000 people, and checked more than 1,400 vehicles, yet still failed to identify the killer. Then, in August 1987, the case reached the 15-year statute of limitations under the law at that time. This meant that even if the police identified the killer, they could no longer initiate a criminal prosecution, and continuing the pursuit had little meaning. And so, the Mount Kirizumi hot spring incident became yet another unsolved case.